This is Don Ortega reporting on the celebration of the new Viet Nam Tan Dan Chu, which is currently the new provisional government of Vietnam. The representatives of the three generations of the elders, middle-aged, and the youth requested Mr. Dao Minh Quan with great sacrifice to accept the responsibility of the Prime Minister of the new Vietnam National Provisional Government. The new conferences held by the three generations, the elders, middle-aged, and the Viet youth on the January 17th and February 10th, 1991 at the headquarters of the Viet Nam Tan Dan Chu, the new Vietnamese Democracy, located at 12812 Brookhurst Street, Garden Grove, California, also known as the Center for Viet Refugees Worldwide. The purpose of these two conferences were to propose, choose, and decide a person to head the cabinet of the new Vietnam's Provisional National Government. There were many Viet elders who came from long distances, such as Mr. Trong Nia, representative of Dan Su Viet, Viet's history, from Portland, Oregon. Mr. Hai Trieu, an author and poet from San Jose, Northern California, and many other representatives for their generations exchanged and discussed their points of view on acceptable qualities and characters of a new leader who can lead the nation of Vietnam in this new situation. Mr. Tran Ngoc Duong, a former staff officer, commander to the Regiment Bac Tien Northbound Regiment, assistant to the staff officer of the South Vietnam Psychological Warfare, and chairman to the pre-1975 Communist POWs Association in Saigon, Vietnam. Mr. Tran is currently advisor to the POWs in the United States Secretary General to Southern California's division of Vietnam Tan Dan Chu, the new Vietnamese Democracy movement. Has repeatedly spelled out his great admiration to Mr. Dao Minh Quan's leadership, that he has collaborated in the past 4 years with this movement. He also expressed his respect to Mr. Dao. Despite his youth, humbleness, persistence, and virtues of dedicated person, has demonstrated his political awareness, currently President of the Vietnam Tan Dan Chu. Mr. Tran has been spontaneously moved in apprehension of Mr. Dao's refusal to the previous request by the people to accept the responsibility as to the excuse of his unpreparedness and political popularity in assuming the new role.
Thủ tướng làm lễ tế cáo trời đất. Trân trọng kính mời toàn thể đại hội đứng dậy. Kính mời Thủ tướng tiến về bàn thờ Tổ quốc. Liệt tổ anh hùng của dân tộc Việt Nam, hôm nay đứng ra nhận trọng nhiệm Thủ tướng Chính phủ Quốc gia Việt Nam lâm thời. Xin kính cẩn. Thứ hai, đặt để quyền lợi Tổ quốc và nhân dân Việt Nam trên hết. Thủ tướng xin thề Hey. Buổi lễ tuyên thệ chấm dứt. Tiếp theo, mời quý vị an tọa. Tiếp theo là lời cầu nguyện của Thủ tướng.
Kính thưa đồng bào, kính thưa liệt quý vị, chúng tôi đại diện một số các cụ lão niên mạng thép đồng bào thỉnh cầu ông Dao Minh Quan tạm thời giữ nhiệm vụ Thủ tướng Chính phủ Quốc gia Việt Nam lâm thời để thay thế cụ Nguyễn Dân vì cụ đã lâm trọng bệnh một cách bất ngờ.
In this conference, we also recorded Mr. Nguyen Duc Sai, also known as Chan Trung, former staff officer to the South Vietnam's commandos and chief officer of intelligence in Viet Nam province. Mr. Sai wholeheartedly requested Mr. Dao Minh Quan, in the urgency of millions of suffering Viet people under communist inhuman yoke, domestic and in refugee camps alike, to accept the responsibility of history to eliminate the barbarian Vietnamese communists. He believed the Vietnam's youth is the only generation capable to stop inhuman communism in Vietnam. Mr. Pham Bu, an elder, 77 years of age, former chief administrator to Ha Nam province, discussed with the representatives of three necessary and sufficient characteristics in a leader: humanity, intelligence, and courage. Mr. Vu also expressed with his own reservation his judgment that Mr. Dao Minh Quan, a young person of national destiny and national momentum associated with his own country, has expressly demonstrated the acceptable and sufficient elements and characteristics, and is capable of being a prime minister to the Vietnam's national provisional government. Mr. Trong Nghia, representative to on behalf of the young Vietnamese, has requested that Mr. Dao Minh Quan be president and prime minister of the new provisional government. These three men, the oldest is Mr. Trong Trong Zu, has lost one eye to the communist fight. Also, Mr. Song Nguyen has lost one arm during the Vietnam War, and Mr. Trong Nghia has lost one leg by a minefield of the communists. They are the true war heroes. All have come to this conference to represent the disabled veterans and to express and reaffirm their allegiance to Mr. Dao Minh Quan as Prime Minister of the Provisional Government of Vietnam. They swore to donate their lives to this new government. Mr. Trong Nghia, representative to Li Nghia Lim Sai Viet Society, has also emphasized the three important factors: sovereign, permanent, and clear, to propose in selecting a capable leader for the Viet people. He also proposed that Mr. Dao Minh Quan is capable in this new role as a prime minister to this new Vietnam's national provisional government. A young lady came from Portland, Oregon, Miss Phong Hang, one of the co-founders to the United Front of former South Vietnam's Navy Admiral Hong Ko Min, who has briefly yet steadfastly requested Mr. Dao to assume the tough job, and she vowed to dedicate support of the new Vietnam's national provisional government to topple barbarian communists in Vietnam. Mr. Trong Bon Thai, an engineer from Portland, Oregon, called the conferees to support Mr. Dao in the new role as Prime Minister. He stressed the vital human factor that Vietnam Tan Dan Chu has depicted and tries to recruit national elite. He expressed his view on the role and norm of political refugees as to reconfirm the anti-communist stand in expressly signing the campaign leaflet, the quote, "the foot smashing Ho Chi Minh's face," unquote. He also confirmed Vietnam Tan Dan Chu has this clear-cut anti-communist and effective campaign. During thousands of people have come to give Mr. Dao Minh Quan the national gift and also have signed to put their foot on the face of Ho Chi Minh. During the conferences, the people were also touched by Mr. Tran Van An's ordeal and his feelings as a regular Vietnamese national in the last three political regimes in Vietnam before the communist invasion of South Vietnam. He told the audience he's ready to sacrifice even his own life and his family's safety in Vietnam to support the new Vietnam's national provisional government as well as Mr. Dao to serve his country effectively. Despite the long duration of these two conferences, the representatives in the seminars have shown no sign of tiredness nor distraction, even though the meetings were continuously almost 10 hours long. For the first time after 1975, in the two conferences, within 2 months, everyone has heard the real cries from the Viet people overseas, firmly fighting against inhuman communists, and expressed their support to the new Vietnam's national provisional government to suppress the inhuman, atheistic communists in Hanoi. The atmosphere in these two conferences were very moving and unanimous. It's worth to note that the representatives came from many places and regions, many different organizations, associations, parties, many generations, unanimously and firmly proposed and requested Mr. Dao to assume the role of the Prime Minister of the new Vietnam's national provisional government, and there was no criticism to this young person. Mr. Dao Minh Quan has vehemently refused to be assigned by the conferences to lead the newly formed government. He also called the representatives to be patient, to search for a better person to serve the people of Vietnam. Mr. Dao, however, has eventually accepted, by the conferees' prolonged pressure, the new role as the Prime Minister to this new Vietnam's national provisional government. It was questioned nonetheless, how can a young man of 39 years of age be active in politics only a couple of years and obtain an absolute credibility from the conferees? The answer is never before has the people's desire to liberate Vietnam from communism been so strong as it is now. It's expressed democratically and unanimously in these conferences. As you can see, in this very emotional dissertation, there are many people who are shedding tears and crying because Mr. Dao has accepted the very large task of being Prime Minister of the new provisional government.
Vì tiền đồ của dân tộc, những người lão thượng, những bậc lão thượng, những thanh niên Việt Nam sẽ cùng chung mà lo cho đại cuộc bị cộng sản cướp nước, mới nhắm mắt khoanh tay làm ngơ, mới khoanh tay cúi đầu an phận. Nhất phải giải công thì thân nhân ta mới yên mồ ấm mã, phải giải công thì nhân dân ta mới thoát cảnh đầu đường xó chợ, phải giải công thì bà con ta mới có ruộng vườn canh tác, phải giải công thì chương hữu ta mới thoát khỏi buồn gông tù tội nhục nhã, phải giải công thì mới cứu được đồng bào ta trong các trại tị nạn, không biết đi về đâu, chỉ chờ mong từng giờ từng ngày, mong khi đất nước thoát gông cùng cộng việc để được trở về quê hương nơi chôn nhau cất rúng.
Mr. Dao is a very good speaker, has moved the audience to tears. It's just very evident that it's an emotional moment and that Mr. Dao himself has just broke down in tears himself and is now finishing his address to the crying people. Finally, the crowd stands up and all swear to stand behind this fine young man and to fight the communists to the end and victory for the Vietnamese people and to provide further guidance for the provisional government. In overseas, after the political organizations failed, the people's trust, yet at this time it seems that the people's trust resumes and bursts out. The country of Vietnam is waiting for something from this young person. This is a good sign for the country of a free Vietnam. It seems clear that everybody here wishes the best for this new leader who has sufficient energy and courage to lead the national boat victory over Vietnamese communists. This is Don Ortega reporting.
Chiều nào thấy đồ máu